Hello, I'm the Angry Spork, taking issue with the final two installments of Batman and Robin Eternal. When we last left this series, various Bat allies were spread across the globe, fighting off mind-controlled children and the surprise of elite orphan assassins in an effort to shut down the ichthys signal controlling the masses. Their backup is trauma toxin that Scarecrow initially developed years back for Mother, but will now counter the ichthys transmission. While Grayson ran afoul of Azrael trying to infiltrate Mother's Arctic base, the human trafficker in question offered Harper Row the chance to end the life of her mother's killer.
Issue 25, Steve Orlando scripting, has a cover that I'm absolutely convinced is going to happen in story. Midnighter is still watching Dr. Crane while the Allies buy him time for his special toxin. And just watch as Red Robin drops an orphan assassin from, well, really high up, which would actually kill him. So, did he know those mind-warped kids would catch him? With this series, I doubt it. Also, I think he'd just end up crushing and killing most of the kids, and still have some broken bones. The 2-page title spread shows the other allies in their brawls, with quotations of Batman and Robin for Gordon and Duke. And it looks like, spoiler alert, got the upper hand against the orphan in Tokyo, even though she probably hasn't had nearly enough tutelage to win against a trained assassin. But if these guys are anything like the one that tried killing Harper, they're probably just not very good.
I notice Batwing is oddly absent. Surely he could be of ample assistance. Or is he too busy defending himself against Iron Man in a trademark infringement suit?
Cullen Rowe, watching the many fights go south, is trying to get a response from Grayson, who's a tad busy trying to convince Azrael that Mother should be exposed, not martyred. After fire-slicing the spy's weapon in two, Az declares she needs to die for depriving him of a life, while he was raised by the Order of St. Dumas and their lies. For some reason, Grayson taking the heated ends of his now halved weapon and hitting Jean-Paul's sword causes it to break. The panels really don't visually explain this very well at all. But that doesn't deter the old Angel of Death, as he reveals his trademark blazing gauntlet blades. Avoiding the ensuing slashes, Dick says even now he's living by the trauma-based rules Mother set. Getting Az in a lock, he continues that he can still be something greater, but by fighting his foe without her terms of death and brutality. JP frees himself, slashes at Grayson, then asks him about taking such a path.
You couldn't have asked without one last attempt at killing him?
Inside the Arctic base, Bluebird refuses to kill Casino even though she murdered her mom, but Mother insists that event is what kept her from her intended greatness, because the Eternal books haven't spent enough time talking about how great Harper is supposed to be. Without ending the life of Miranda Rose Killer, Harp can't join Mother's intended perfect world, and the young assassin isn't worth giving all that up. Showing off hollow footage of Miranda's death, Mother explained that she ordered Casino dead after the girl couldn't stomach her first kill, but she ran off, straight to Batman. Mother then tries pragmatism, saying that Casino is meant for death, and at this point, even she would agree.
Wait. She killed Miranda in Gotham, felt bad and ran away, but didn't meet Batman with the list of Mother's kids for another 7 years. What was she doing in all that time?
Good news, the trauma toxin's ready. Bad news, the orphans may not leave enough capes alive to operate the release canisters. Midnighter knowingly tells Cullen he doesn't see a problem, and the suddenly experienced hacker has an idea. One by one, he doors all dozen killers to one location. Midnighters. And he looks pretty thrilled at the prospect. A splash page shows him attacking his surrounding foes, apparently breaking one's sword in one strike with his open hand. Couldn't they have just as easily teleported them to the inside of a prison cell or something? And this idea didn't come to the guy with an alleged computer in his brain earlier? Okay, whatever, more fighting.
I'm not really familiar with Midnighter, other than the fact that he's kind of a Batman pastiche from the Wildstorm title The Authority, which used to be separate from the DC main canon until fairly recently. I don't know if shattering swords is something he can normally do, or if he's typically skilled enough to take on 12 trained assassins at once. But I'm sure Midnighter fans will enjoy the scene all the same.
In Tokyo, an overwhelmed spoiler alert manages to use 2 portal doors to reach her location's receiver and take it out. Wait, what happened to portals not being able to be used because of shielding? This comic can't keep its own rules straight. I don't even know if the doors respond by Cullen's operation or their voice command or what. Conveniently enough, the others are replying that their transmitters are kaput, so it's masks on, gas on. It'll allegedly work like defibrillation, in principle, but when asked what'll they do if it doesn't do the trick, Radar replies that it will just have to. Nothing like a cliche to assure one's concerns. One green fog later and the kids are back to normal. No ill effects or struggle from conflicting influences, like with using fear gas when Spiral was under siege. Everyone's A-OK. Though you gotta wonder what'll happen when the wind moves the toxin to the populace not affected by Ichthys. Cullen is proud of himself, but Mother is nowhere near pleased, smacking and shattering her holograms? As she rants how the inevitability of pain must be pushed through, she bumps past Bluebird, who stealthily takes the knife she was offered at the end of issue 24. Apparently this seasoned killer and longtime planner doesn't notice. Because Harper Row, probably. As she approaches Casino, Mother instructs Ops to realign the satellites for secondary towers to relaunch Ichthys. Her captions pepper a page of ice climbing, where she admonishes Bruce Wayne in dialogue that Harper would have to hear and thus deduce Batman's identity, but I'm sure it will not come up later as at all relevant. She also claims to care about every person on the planet, yet the mass murder, and is the only one who can save the world and make it strong. Grayson makes a dramatic entrance saying that world saving is his job.
Which brings us to the final issue. And frankly, I don't think they can do anything to save it from the problems they've thoroughly established in this series. Shy of making all the Eternal books, including Harper Row and the subpar versions of Cassie and Steph they're trying to give us, nothing more than a bad night terror Alfred experienced after his first and only time trying Taco Bell.
Issue 26, scripted by James Tynion IV, begins with a flashback at the Gotham Global Modern Bank, not to be confused with the Gotham Global Antiquated Bank. Miranda Rowe is called to her boss's office, where she finds more than the guy she calls Mr. Kavanaugh, but also her young daughter. She'd been found on the staircase, and Miranda apologizes as her husband was supposed to watch the kids. She'll make up lost hours later as she takes her eldest child out of the building. Harper assures her that Cullen is safe with a box of cereal watching Power Rangers, then talks about a volcano she made for science class, claimed to be better than any other, because Harper Row. Unfortunately, Mom won't be able to take off work for the assembly where it'll be erupting, leading the girl to ask if she still loves her family. The kids don't see her very often, and she had a big fight with their dad, and so Miranda sits her down for a talk. People aren't what you'd hoped, no matter how much you love them, she says, and mistakes and old habits still arise. Trying to push them against what they are at their core can break them or you. What matters is that she works at the bank all day, a Burnside diner all night, because a sideways path led to Harper. But she's worth it. Her kids can be whatever they want, and while Mama won't always be there to hold their hands, she'll always be with them.
Despite this flashback and a couple of times Harper has mentioned her mother in previous issues, we really don't know Miranda Rowe very well. The backstory just isn't very substantial. She worked 2 jobs, which clearly wasn't enough to pay the bills, so she went out and committed a crime with her husband. Which, by the way, when did she find time to do that instead of, spending any time with her kids? And was that common for her to do? Or was committing crime just a rare exception for that situation? Without the kind of insight, building, and detail that writers on this title have thoroughly avoided previously, the impact she's supposed to have on Harper's life has very little weight to it. Also, what has little weight to it is the decision to make her Casino's first victim, which is really more about Harper than it is about the character they supposedly love from before Flashpoint.
In the present, knife-wielding Harper is standing in front of Casino, now on the ground for some reason, as Grayson tries to talk sense to her. Mother tells him that soon enough her satellites will attack a dozen more cities, while assuming they haven't enough of Scarecrow's gas to keep dosing the planet before her new world becomes a reality. She turns her attention to Harper, goading her into killing Casino, not at all acknowledging that Lady Dyejob took the knife subversively, while Grayson tries to keep Harper from submitting. The chained assassin then pleads for her to just get it over with, that Ro will feel better. But Bluebird tells her that she'd never hurt the girl, that's not who she was raised to be, and was mapping out the electrical infrastructure so she could throw the knife at the most critical spot, which interrupts the power supply.
Of course she's an expert knife thrower, because of all that established knife-throwing training she was put through that was never brought up before! Screw you, comic!
Mother orders the computer to use backups and is attacked by her would-be minion. While Grayson works to untie Casino, Harper is offended by the old woman's assertion she was wounded and needed a void in her life to be filled.
But you don't know me. You don't know my story.
There really isn't a lot to grasp, since you're just an amalgamation of other Batman sidekicks, but without any of the pathos, likability, character building, or anything good.
She continues to listen to herself talk by explaining how she supported herself and her brother, including learning about electrical engineering and getting a job, which we haven't seen her at in ever. I mean, even other comics occasionally show crime fighters at their day jobs. It was hard, but her mom raised her to find what was best in herself, not like Mother's twisted philosophy. But the old lady's had enough of all this and decides to do what she was probably going to do anyway. Just shoot her.
Woohoo!
But Casino shoves her out of the way, taking the bullet in the arm.
Son of a...
That's when the fortress's systems come back online and reconnect to Somnus, ready to change 100 cities by a day's end, or beginning depending on where they are. And that's when Grayson delivers an order through his comms, resulting in Somnus's disconnection, courtesy of Azrael's fire slashing at some machinery outside. Also, bit of an art goof, his mask is damaged on the left side, whereas before it was on the right. Mother calls in more of her orphans, and Grayson counters by calling in the allies, dropping in through door portals. But we don't see the portals themselves for some reason. Bluebird helps Casino up, saying that while it hurt her to find out what she did, it wasn't who she is, but knows who she really is, yeah right, and she's tried to help everyone she loves.
I've previously stated that I do not acknowledge this character as Cassie, mostly because she isn't. But the writers on this book seem to, and since they obviously don't know who Cassandra Cain is, I can assure you, Blue Bird Brain here certainly doesn't. Furthermore, what has this unreasonable facsimile done to earn anyone's affection, except toss more attention Harper Rowe's way, since that's the only character she ever really interacts with? Giving them information on Mother isn't a sign of love, it's just trying to do the right thing.
So these two are ready to finish this, and spoiler alert shows up with one of Harp's stun rifles.
I love you. I know.
First off, she was talking to herself or her gun, not you, spoiler alert. Secondly, I understand that there will be some people that might find this scene of the three of them together a cool-looking pose, but aesthetics is all it is. Nothing about it feels any more earned than the similar scene at the ballet with Casino, Harper, and Grayson. All it is just two poor imitations and the character they've been written by hacks to worship. Their relationships are poorly constructed at best and are aimed solely to favor one of them. And it's not either of the two on the sides.
Grayson chases Mother, who gradually sheds her garments to reveal a white suit beneath. Well, when your base is in the Arctic, it makes sense that you dress in layers. She's learned from the horrors of the world over the years, wielding 2 electrified short swords, yet somehow was beaten by an upstart teenager not 5 minutes ago. The other Robins join in, wielding blades themselves, and Tinian squeezes in some last-second justification as Mother shows off some starvation and warfare across the planet, a status quo the Robins are protecting from her efforts to rebuild and save the suffering children. After again bashing Batman for not understanding, Dick says the Dark Knight knew his protégés could be better than him, not defining themselves by their traumas. "You don't understand Batman. You don't understand Robin. And you never did."
You don't know spoiler, you don't know Cassie Kane, you don't know character building, you don't... Oh, I'm sorry, I thought I was talking to the writers and editors on this book.
Faced with the prospect of prison, Mother utters a code that starts cracking the floor beneath them. Turns out her castle was built over an active volcano, which I know sounds like a contradiction for the Arctic, but is actually kind of a real thing. She plans on erasing every trace of her base, but even with the exposed lava, Grayson doesn't want to leave without her. Mother plans to rebuild her empire, maybe send one of her children to kill Agent 37 down the line, but she faces some opposition from Casino, whom Dick and Harper for some reason think she's going for the kill. Most likely to build some fake tension until after a series of strikes, the girl vows aloud she'll never kill again as she kicks Mother to a separate platform. The old woman remains stubborn until she gets a sword through her sternum by Orphan?
Your throat was cut and you were dumped into Arctic waters. How did you survive?
After dedicating his life and his daughter for Mother, he wants her to say his name, which she does while pleading that they rebuild, since he'd become so strong. Grayson still insists on taking her alive, but no dice. After telling Casino she deserved better, certainly better than this stupid rebooting retconning nonsense, he jumps into the lava with Mother, and for some reason this upsets his daughter. The Capes begin evacuating with other orphans in tow.
So, what exactly changed? When the nursery was going to be nuked, Idiot was making all manner of excuses to justify Mother's actions. He knew her rules, and he was living by them. He enjoyed the whole killing thing. Maybe it was he was finally declared weak and had no other excuses to think up, but if this was supposedly some kind of redemption for this stupid reiterated character, it falls very flat, which is consistent with the Eternal books.
With the fortress crumbling and everyone evacuated, there's a reunion with the Rowe siblings, and spoiler alert, the latter of whom apparently thinks Casino is a person now and invites her to the group hug. The Robins have gathered, Damien thinking this is a victory, but Grayson suggests this isn't the time to rest on their laurels. There could be contingencies in place, and Batman knew they'd be capable of stepping up in his absence, so their work is far from finished. We jump ahead a month after the events of Batman number 50 and the Robin War. Harper is at her mother's grave and is met by Batman, the real deal in a new suit. He wants to discuss what she's learned, but...
No, I want to talk first.
Big surprise there. She thinks Bats could have mentioned what happened when she started wearing a costume and fighting with him and his crew, and whatever she did with that knowledge would have been her business. Maybe her decisions were hers, or perhaps not, but after coming close to death and her brother getting involved in the whole deal of crime fighting and world saving, she knows that's not all there is. For all Miranda Rowe's faults, she did her best to show her kids, but probably mostly Harper, could be anything, and in that light she's applied for a Wayne Foundation scholarship to Gotham Technical Institute. She'll help people, but on her own terms, maybe involving a costume, maybe not, and recalls how she tracked Batman down as an electrician's assistant, professing she'll be better with a bachelor's degree.
Because she hasn't complimented herself enough in this series.
Harp leaves, and after a moment, Casino steps out of the shadows, with Batman telling her that her kill will stay with her, but needn't define her. She can turn away from this life, but the girl refuses, wanting to help, under the name Orphan.
That makes no sense whatsoever. I have heard explanations like, she wants to bring honor to the name. Well, you can't bring honor to the name because it's the name of a murderer. A bunch of murderers, in fact. And she wanted to honor her father. Her father never cared about her. Those little bits of dialogue we saw before his giant leap were not making up for 25 issues of trying to murder her and belittling her and showing how much he never cared. Idiot never cared about Casino. Not a single bit. Furthermore, the only established motive we can come up with, given what we've seen of this twisted version of David Kane, is that he was mad at Mother for betraying him after years of loyalty. That's it. And you can't explain this any other way. Of course, this is the Eternal stories, so they are as terrible at explaining themselves as they are at character building.
Later on a rooftop, Batman meets with Grayson, and confirming that Pointy Ears' fear of being just like Mother made him keep everything about her secret. But as infuriating as he was, he never forced his sidekicks to fit his mold. Bruce will always have his trust issues, but Grayson's people skills made him the best person for Casino to hand off for information, and eventually beat Mother. Damian swings in, chiding Grayson for not watching a heist, but despite talking to Batman, he's still watching it. Spy gear, maybe? Well, Red Robin and Red Hood stop by as well, saying the crooks have half a mill and some hostages. And they all swing into action on the final page, with Batman given strangely different lighting compared to his sidekicks. Not sure why, but it sure doesn't look natural.
And that's the end of Batman and Robin Eternal. So, what's the overall verdict? Well, let me just say to all the writers, editors, executives, people who made this story what it was. What is wrong with you, you ridiculous, sewage-spewing, trash-huffing, reticulated shark-smuggling, glass-gnawing, dirty diaper-hoarding, inept, boneheaded, broken, clock-trusting,